blessing. I love him. But man, what an infectious spirit John has. And I know that's factored in everything here. Great, that was great staff, ministers, and all the people here. I've been so looking forward to coming back and being with you this weekend. And it's been a fantastic weekend. We had a wonderful group that was here this weekend going through as we looked at how we can use our spiritual gifts to serve and bless others for God and to impact people's lives. And it's been wonderful to see so many people here who are newer Christians who have come to faith here, and the story of this church growing over the years from a small core group to where it is today has just been fantastic. And I've been excited to meet people from different walks, newer Christians, mature Christians, young adults. I mean, there's just so many wonderful things going on in this place. And I'm thrilled about your mission, investing in people, igniting towns, and restoring people to God. What a wonderful way to encapsulate and to summarize the gospel and what we as God's people are supposed to be about. And I know this weekend with the seminar about spiritual gifts, we've been talking a lot about really basically investing in people and understanding how we've been made by God so that we can go out and be a blessing to others. And so that has been fantastic. I direct a ministry called Next Generation for Christ, and a long-time minister, and I've always had a passion for reaching people for Christ. Growing up, going on mission trips in the summer, and getting started in ministry, going down to the jail, and then preaching and teaching the gospel for so many years. But it's now my own kids' generation is the next generation, and I want to reach them for Christ. I want to reach our communities for Christ, and I want to help churches reach people for Christ. And sometimes I have to tell you that reaching the next generation can be kind of tough. My oldest daughter, Gina, is a wonderful service. She's got a heart for mission and evangelism. But when she was 5 years old, my wife's mother lived in Iowa, and we went and visited her. And my mother-in-law had a cat at that time, and I'm allergic to cats. So when I was there, I started sneezing and coughing. I'm like, what in the world's going on here? I had to go spend the night at a hotel. I found out that she had a cat. So come back home, and my oldest daughter, who was at that time 5, said to my wife, Becky, she said, Mom, I'd really like us to get a cat. Becky said, well, honey, your dad's allergic to cats. He said, well, we can keep it outside. No, it'd run out and get away. Well, we can build a fence. Well, in our neighborhood, actually, the fences have to be spaced out and get out. It wouldn't work. She said, we can keep it in the garage. She said, honey, we're not going to keep the cat in the garage. Finally, she said, she's thinking, and she's like, Mom, does everyone die? I said, yes, honey. Dad, everyone dies? She said, will Dad die? Well, yes, eventually Dad will die. She said, if Dad dies, can I get a cat? You see him showing up at the funeral with a cat. So it can be tough reaching the next generation. They're always ready to knock you off. But I've been so blessed to see her grow up and lead people to faith, even on her own, going through the Story Redemption series and leading one of her friends to faith and going on mission this summer. And my kids are all wonderful, as every parent believes, and they're also wonderfully unique. My second child, Emily, she's always been a bit playful and mischievous. And one day I was looking around for my wallet, couldn't find it anywhere, and I had appointments to go to, and no gas in the car, and I had to stay home, cancel my appointments. Finally, came home. She came home, and my wife asked her. I said, Emily, did because she liked to hide things. She said, did you hide your dad's wallet? She said, yeah. And I hid it really good. She shoved it up in some drawer, and she's just over there laughing, smiling. My youngest daughter, Kaylee, is now 5 years old, and she has no problems talking about anything. She'll tell people that her job, her mission, she says, my job is to tell people about Jesus, and which is so wonderful to hear. But we talk a lot about blessing people's lives, serving people, as we've talked about this weekend. And one night we were at the dinner table, and we're sitting there, we're praying, and she's praying, and she says, "Dear Lord," which is kind of interesting because we don't pray like that, but she says that, and then she said, Thank you so much for allowing me to be such a blessing to everyone. Well, that didn't quite come out like we were intending. But we do want to be a blessing to other people in their lives. And that's what the Spiritual Gifts Seminar has been about. Discovering how God has gifted us, how God has blessed us, and how we can use those gifts to serve and bless other people in all aspects of our lives. Serve our family, people in our community, as well as within the church and the church's ministries. And just like our children, and we believe they're wonderfully made, God made each and every one of us fearfully and wonderfully made. It's in Psalm 139. God is like a parent, and we're all his little children, and he loves us unconditionally. And when he looks at you, he smiles. He smiles. And so this morning I want to talk a little bit about using these gifts and serving together. And as a body, as smaller groups, and because we can think so individualistically, and that's important to serve in just individual daily lives whenever there's no one else around. But there is also something very powerful when we serve together as a team, as a body, in smaller groups of Christians. And so I want to look at that and go through this just a little bit this morning. Paul says in 1 Peter chapter 4, each one of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. And so all the gifts that we have, we need to use them to serve and bless others. And this fits into the larger mission of what we are called to do and be by God. Jesus said, come follow me and I will send you out to fish for people. It's about people. We're about what? Investing in people, right? Y'all have it right there in your mission statement. Jesus said, come and follow me. And he didn't say, and I'll make you really smart students. You'll know a lot. You'll get straight A's in Bible class. He says, hey, those things are great. But he says, it's about people. Come follow me and I will help you fish for people. And Jesus said that his mission was to come and seek and save the lost, to serve other people, and to share the good news. And when we begin to understand how we can serve individually as families and as a church, then that helps us fulfill the mission of God and reach people for Christ and restore people to God and ignite all of our towns and cities for the gospel of Jesus Christ. And there is something that is powerful that happens when we serve together as a team. A lot of younger people, I have to say, get this. There was most recently, actually about a year ago, a move by one of the great basketball players of this time, Kevin Durant, moved from Oklahoma City to the Golden State Warriors. Y'all heard of that team? I think it's around here somewhere. And there was a lot of criticism because he was a fantastic player already. He lost to a team, and he went to the team that he lost to. And a lot of people said, why would you do that? That's kind of an easy way out. Why would you go and be a part of that team? Why wouldn't you just, win on your own so that you can get the credit and get the glory? And I have to say, I can't see that Michael Jordan would have ever gone and joined the Detroit Pistons after they beat them in the Eastern Conference Finals. That probably wouldn't have happened. But today, there's a different mindset of, hey, we ought to work together. That's one of the things that I love about this younger generation. They're collaborative. They want to be together and to serve together. And there is something that is powerful that comes from us serving together that we don't get individually. And there's actually an interesting psychological effect called the cheerleader effect. Have you heard of this? The cheerleader effect, and that is that they've actually done studies, right? Ask people, okay, how attractive do you think this person is? And when they see people within a group, they rank them as being more attractive than just their individual picture on their own, which is an interesting phenomenon. Now, I like to call this phenomenon also a very closely related one that fits into that called the Nord Girls effect. And that is that I look so much better when I am surrounded by my beautiful family, right? And we have to understand that there is something attractive about Christ in a community, about people together doing things. We are so much stronger in our witness when we do things together than simply on our own. Sometimes on on our own, that's the only, there's no one else around, we are it, to be Christ to that people. But wherever possible, if we can serve together, that is something that is very, very powerful. You know, my youngest daughter, anytime my wife and I give each other a hug, pretty soon there's this little 5-year-old girl who is like between our legs. People are drawn towards true, loving community, and it can have a powerful effect. And so when we serve together as a team, one of the things that it does is it allows people to see the love that we have for one another, and when they do encounter a loving people that perhaps they can be a part of, because we are made for community. In all of the creation account, it says there was only one thing that was not good, and that it was not good for what? Not good for the man to be alone. Have you seen men alone? It's kind of scary. But together, we can find purpose and meaning in life and have a powerful impact around us. Paul was one who, as great of an evangelist and worker and apostle he was, he had a powerful team. And if you look at the end of the book of Romans, one of the books of the Bible that Paul wrote, one of the early followers of Jesus, in a book called Romans, and at the end of that letter to Christians in Rome, he has all these greetings. And in these greetings, there are some wonderful things that we learn from that. We can kind of see the people that were somewhat, you could call them a part of Paul's team, people that he worked with and they greeted, that did great things together for the Lord. There were on this team both men and women. There were husband and wife teams. There were new converts, and there were established Christians. There were people from different ethnicities, servants, apostles, missionaries, people that were hard workers, people that he called co-workers, dear friends, people that were like mothers to him. All of these people together. This is who Paul greets when he sends this letter to the church in Rome, because it takes all of us working together to have the greatest impact for the Lord and to reach the most people for Christ. And that's why I hope, as you go through this these next few months and this next year, that all of us, learn to discover our gifts. How can we conserve? How can we be a part of this body? How can we use these in all areas of our lives? And when we do that, when we work together as a team, we can have a very powerful effect. If you look at this concept, it's actually found throughout Scripture. Moses, great, fantastic leader, and yet he didn't do his work in ministry alone. He helped lead the people out of Egypt. God was at work through all that, empowering him, equipping him, but also he had others around him. If you look in Micah, one of the books of the Old Testament, God says, I brought you out of Egypt and redeemed you, restored you, you might say, from the land of slavery. I sent Moses to lead you. Also who? Aaron and Miriam. Where would Moses be without Aaron and Miriam? First of all, Miriam, his sister, helped save him out of the Nile River. But also his brother Aaron helped speak for him. He was a high priest. Moses didn't do it alone. And in fact, when he tried to do it alone, or too much on his own, his father-in-law, who was a very wise man, kind of got onto him. We see this in book of Exodus, one of the books of the Old Testament, chapter 18. It says, Jethro, his father-in-law, was delighted to know about all the good things that were happening there, and how God had rescued them from the hands of the Egyptians. But when he found out that Moses was having all the people, all the court cases basically come to him, and he's deciding every single case, Jethro says this, what you're doing is not good. Why? Because he was a bottleneck for the whole mission, for everything that was happening. Jethro said, you and these people come to you, all these people come to you, and you'll only wear yourselves out, because he was trying to do too much. Teach them decrees and instructions. Play that role in this people of God. Show them the way that they are to live and how they are to believe. But he says, but select capable men from all the people, appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. So what Moses, his father-in-law, is telling him, look, you have certain gifts. Use those. Teach, proclaim. But appoint others. Get others involved. And I'll tell you, if this church is going to really ignite the towns around here and restore so many people to the Lord, then it's going to come from everyone here serving God, being a part, knowing how God made you and how you can be of most help and blessing to those around you and a part of this church in a very profound way. If it all comes down to John, or all comes down to John and the staff, or it all comes down to John and the staff and the elders, guess what? There's only so much that is humanly possible. But with everyone here working together, great and powerful things can happen. And Jesus himself, though he had so much that he could do on his own, he wanted to work together with others and have others be a part of this mission. We see that Jesus traveled around from town to town, village to village, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom of God. Luke chapter 8, the 12 were with him, also some women who had been cured of evil spirits and demons. Mary, called Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had come out. Joanna, the wife of Chuza, the manager of Herod's household. Susanna, and many others. These women were helping to support them out of their own means. So Jesus didn't work all on his own. He appointed the 12. He had both men and women traveling with him. In fact, it was the women who were financing and bankrolling this whole mission. People who had come out of recovery ministries, the women who had had demons and had been possessed, and yet God had restored them. Jesus had restored them. We see that they had managers, women who were managers. So it takes all of us working together to have the most profound impact for those around us. And so if we will do this, if we'll work together as a team in the different areas of our lives, God will do some great things. So the first realm or circle that I want us to have us to think about is serving together as a little team in our families and the powerful impact that this can have. It's a missionary couple called Carl and Teresa Wilkerson who served as missionaries in Rwanda in the 1990s. And they went there before the Civil War broke out. And if you know much of the history of that country, you know that in the 1990s there was a terrible civil war that broke out between 2 different ethnic groups. The Belgians, which had ruled over that country for many years, had arbitrarily divided people into different ethnic groups. And they came to learn to hate one another, unfortunately. And a civil war broke out one night. The president's plane was shot down, and that was a sign for one group, the Hutus and the Tutsis, for one of those groups to go out and begin killing one another with machetes late at night. Now, this missionary couple had been there for several years, serving together with their family, trying to bless the people's lives around them. And they did that together as a family. And this night that the plane was shot down, one of these killing squads with machetes came out to their household. And they were asleep, and they didn't even know about this. But these killing squads were coming there, and they were going to kill this missionary family. And it was their neighbors who interceded for them and said, "These are good people. You can't do this." And they began to recite small acts of kindness that they had done for them, how they had blessed them, how they had served them, how they had brought them food in the middle of the night and provided them with medicine. Small acts of kindness, I'm sure, using all of their gifts to bless them. Nothing seemed to get through to these would-be killers. And finally, they said, "No, you don't understand. You cannot kill these people. Their children play with our children. Their children play with our children." You see, this was not a project. This was not an occasional thing. This was a way of life. And this family had a profound impact upon that community, and because of that, their lives were saved that night, and they were able to go on and save the lives of so many others. If you want to start using your gifts, be a leader in your family. Get your family out serving. Find a neighborhood to adopt. Find an organization to be a part of. Find a mission trip to go on together. This past summer, my family and I went with our ministry, and let's start talking, and we went across Europe, and one of the reasons that we did that was intentionally so that our family would serve together. And I would tell you what, they were impacted by the people there, and I know that they impacted the people that they encountered. And they still ask about our children, because we sought to go together on mission. And I am a much better witness when I'm with my family than simply on my own. We also need to be a people that is serving together out in the community, working together as a team. And I want to tell you about one literal team that had a profound impact upon its community. And that was the Christian Faith High School football team in Grapevine, Texas. Grapevine, Texas is a wealthy suburb in North Dallas. They have 1 million parents that volunteer for that school. They had 70 athletes on that football team and 11 coaches, if you can believe it. The newest equipment, the latest gadget, they had everything. And they were scheduled to play against a team named Gainesville State. Now, usually, in most places, if you have the word state attached to it, it's usually not as good as the other team. But this was a team called Gainesville State because this was a football team that was actually from a state penitentiary, a maximum security state penitentiary in the state of Texas. And this football team had nothing. They played on the road every single game. Most of them had been disowned by their family, by their parents. They had no equipment. They had one coach. They had nothing, and they played on the road every single week. But the coach of this football team, Christian football team, had an idea. And he said, what if for just one game, these young men that we're playing against showed up and they had half of the stadium cheering for them? And that's in fact what happened. When these penitentiary players got off the bus and they took off the handcuffs, they saw there that there was a giant banner for them. And they ran through it like they actually had a crowd behind them. And in fact, the coach had talked with the student body, and half of the student body was cheering for the opposing team. He had recruited the junior varsity cheerleading squad to be cheerleaders for him, and they were cheering for them. These beautiful young women who were calling out, cheering for them and cheering for them by name. And as they went throughout the game, they continued to have their fans. And when they finished up the game, which they lost, but they felt like they had won the Super Bowl. And one of the young men got up to pray there at the end and got there in front of the group, and he began to pray. And they said, we had no idea what he was going to say, this young man, to this Christian football team. But he prayed there with this Christian football team. He said, dear Lord, I have no idea how this happened, but we never knew we had so many people that loved and cared for us. And that penitentiary state football coach grabbed the other coach by his jersey and said, you have no idea how you impacted these young men's lives. You see, that coach could have gone up to those players individually, and that would have been fantastic. But he got up, was involved. He had a whole team and a whole community cheering for them. And that's something that those young men will never, ever forget. When we serve together as a people, that cuts through all the stereotypes about Christians and churches, because genuine acts of love and kindness can have a powerful, profound impact upon people's lives. And when we do that, we need to tell them about the love and grace that's found in Jesus Christ and invite them to follow Jesus. I want to share with you one of the videos in our Story of Redemption film series, which is designed to help share faith with people and tell them about God's incredible love and grace. This one was filmed out at the Sea of Galilee, and it's about Jesus calling his disciples, saying, "Come follow me, and I'll make you fishers of people." There was a woman who showed up at the church building to work and practice her English with a ministry called Friends Speak and ESL, English as a Second Language. But the only reason that she came was because she thought that the church building was a library. Because first of all, she was raised Muslim, and second, her experience of religion was so bad, she wanted nothing to do with any of it. But when she came, she met a woman there who worked in that ministry, very loving and kind-hearted. And she talked with her about how Jesus loved and respected women, were part of his core followers. And so she stayed, and we started studying with her, helping her with her English, and going through the biblical story, going through the story of redemption. And we finished this film, putting this together, the one that we just watched, of Jesus calling his disciples. I said to the woman who worked in this ministry, I said, "You know what, I think this would be a good show." And so we got together on a Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, and we watched that film. And I could tell as she was watching it that she seemed to be really engaged and seemed to be impacted by that. And when it ended, there was just silence. And then she said, "From watching that video, I felt a peace come over me that I've never felt before." Then she said, "I can see now that I can have a family here and a future." And then she said, "I don't want to be Muslim anymore. I want to follow Jesus." Praise God. And she talked about how there were some people that she needed to break free in her life that she was dependent upon financially. But then she began to talk about how she had seen God at work in her life and how she had seen God answer so many prayers. And a few months ago, I was down in Dallas, and I got a message from her saying that she was wanting to be baptized. And so, of course, I had all these appointments lined up, meetings. I said, I can't miss this. So I flew back to the area, and because of her situation, it was just a small group on a late Sunday night that got together, and we baptized her into Christ, which was incredible. But she'd probably never seen a baptism before or know exactly what typically happens after one. So when she came up out of the water, she stepped up to the front ledge of the baptistry, and she started giving a speech about why she wasn't Muslim anymore and why she believed in Jesus and why she was following him. And it was one of the most incredibly inspiring things that I've ever seen in my life. My friends, if we will serve and bless people together, pray about this, find ways to impact people's lives, whether it's helping them with their English, helping them financially, helping them with their raising their children, blessing their marriages, helping them find purpose and meaning in life, and share the gospel message with them, God will bless that. And the more we can do that together as a church, as a family, as a team, the more impact that we will have. And I would tell you that every single person here is needed in that mission. Every single person. Peter, one of the apostles who wrote books of the New Testament, said that whatever gift you have, you should use it to serve and bless others. My hope and prayer for you in this church is that every person here would find how they've been gifted and blessed by God and use those gifts to be a part of this great, incredible mission of God. Invest in people, ignite these towns for Jesus Christ, and restore people to God. is not what God calls us to do and be? And what if every single person here did that? Would God not bless that? And bless this church? And bless your life, your family, and reach many people for Jesus Christ? This morning, we're so glad that you are here. And if you've not made that commitment to follow Jesus, been baptized into Christ, then we want you to know that that offer and invitation is open today, this morning. There's a beautiful ocean you can go and be baptized in. That's incredible. But what's most incredible is claiming God's promise of being His child, the chosen person that He has in mind for each of us, the way He has called us to serve, and being a part of something greater and larger than ourselves. That is what part of baptism is, declaring, God, I want to be a part of your purposes. I want to be a part of who you call me to be. And I want to claim the forgiveness that you offer and serve and bless others and make that what my life is about. If you've done that, know that you've received the Spirit of God and that God has in mind for you great things. I encourage us all to put aside the things that hamper us in that and to find ways to serve and bless others. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here and share this thought, this message with you this morning. I'm so excited about what God is doing here at Hilltop and what He can do even in greater measure, far more than any of us could hope or dream or think of or ask for.